don't want to get up. Hey, how's everybody doing? Oh yeah. Hey, today I'm going to show you Jack and Billie's house of clocks. A lot of people on Facebook and on YouTube and want me to show you some clocks, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to take you a little tour around the house. Excuse the mess here and there, but I'm going to take you around the house and show you some of the clocks we have here. That's Gunner in the background there. He's our watchdog. So, hey, hang in there, and hey, go get yourself a cup of coffee. I'll be right back, and we'll do the little Jack Shaw Museum of Clocks here. Billie calls it, my wife, she calls it Jack and Billie's House of Clocks. So, hang in there. Talk to you in a minute. All right, the first clock I'd like to show you is this Waterbury calendar clock up here. Maybe early 1900s, late 1800s. You can see the red dial, that's the calendar on there. Let me back up a little bit. It's on an oak shelf. We have it hanging in our kitchen. Picked that up off a marketplace, reasonable, and it runs nice. And as you see on the left, it's got a barometer, and on the right, it's got a thermometer. And this was a kitchen clock back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And I guess, I've never seen a barometer that worked on these clocks, but I guess it had different colors and it would tell you, kind of tell you the weather. The model of this clock is a Gibson, I could tell you that much about it. So let's move on a little bit through the house. I'm going to take you into my office room here. Excuse the mess. Alrighty. Close the door. And the first clock you're going to see is it's a little Gilbert clock right there. It's got the second hand. It's a 30-hour clock. And a kind of a little bit of a timbre style clock. It keeps good time. Now the next clock I want to show you is right there. And that's a Morrison Company clock. Now that clock is an OG clock. It's a 30-hour clock. Keeps really good time. And that clock is probably from 1850 to 1855. And the reason I know that is because the Morris Clock Factory burned down in 1855, and I know they didn't make any more clocks after that. And let's step up to her and open it up. The thing is running. And this is what it looks like on the inside. It's very similar to a Seth Thomas clock. In fact, Miles Morris, he is connected to our family. He was married to Seth Thomas's daughter or granddaughter. I can't recall offhand, but and swinging around here, that's my grandparents right there on the wall. And swinging around here, that is a Seth Thomas, no, I'm sorry, that's a Sessions clock, maybe early 1900s. I found that one down in Crawfordsville, Indiana at Cabbages and King's Antique Shop down in the middle part of Indiana. And the springs were messed up on it. The click ratchets looked like somebody had turned the springs, or tried to wind the clock backwards or something and messed the click ratchets up on it. And I got it up here and cleaned it up and fixed it up, and it's been running ever since. Really nice clock. And let me do a 360. And here's the Seth Thomas clock. This is the one I was thinking of. A little alarm clock running next to it. And I don't know why that's even sitting there. And what are you doing here? She's a good runner though. It's a baby Ben. Found it for $2 at an antique shop in Chesterton. It's not supposed to be sitting there. I guess I just set it down there when my daughter was here earlier. But anyway, there's the Seth Thomas clock. It's if I'm saying this right, Adam Mondine or whatever it is called. It's a laminated clock. Probably 1910, I'm guessing, maybe. And Good runner. Bought that over at Coachman over in LaPorte. Every now and then they'll have something I can't live without over there. I frequent that place quite a bit. Okay, now this is a Waterbury alarm clock right here. She takes a fit every now and then, but keeps good time. You got to be real careful about winding it and getting it going and everything. And I think it's got a bad bushing in it. But it does run and it does keep good time. The alarm works fine. I've used it even to get up with. Got a couple other clocks down here. Got an old alarm clock right there from, in the 1920s sometime. I don't know if you can see that or not. And here's the one that really scares me right here. That's a Linden clock, French clock hanging on the wall right there. Now that clock right there is an antique. It's from about 1974. But the thing about it is I bought that brand new. And that's how old a guy I am. All right, now we got the rundown. I don't have all these clocks running because if I have every clock in the house running, it sounds like termites eating the house. But you got that Waterbury right there. Beautiful clock. Again, the click ratchets were messed up on that clock, so I fixed. Believe it or not, the one on the time side, on the right side there, the click ratchet was broke and the spring was broke and it wouldn't wind. And I ordered some parts and I figured, man, I got to take this whole clock apart, movement apart to fix this thing. So I ended up fabricating a spring to hold the click ratchet from the spring from a ballpoint pen, believe it or not. And that's been about a year ago and it still winds and keeps good time. The next one down here is a Seth Thomas right there. And it's a beautiful clock. Next one down here, this is a Gilbert. That's called the Blackbird. And the one down here is a Ingram clock right there, if you can see that. Hope I'm getting this in here. All right, let's move on to the next room. All right, we're in the bedroom right now, and right, what you're looking there is that's a Waterbury clock right there, early 1900s. It's been running in here for a while. Keeps pretty decent time, and I bought that also at Coachman Antiques over in LaPorte. And I believe I paid about $15 for that clock, but the spring was broke on it. So I brought it home and fixed it up and cleaned it up. They had the one thing you want to never do when you get an old clock is let me get these parts here and these parts here. Somebody thought that would be a real cool idea, and the lions you see on the side there. Be a real cool idea if you painted that stuff gold with some gold paint from Ace Hardware. Now, don't ever do that. Leave it alone. Keep your fingers off of it. Jeez, Louise. Don't do that. You're not going to improve anything. So I took some steel wool and cleaned some of that off, and the best I could, and it looks a lot better. All right, in case you're wondering who's in that mirror, let me wave. That's me right there. But anyway, on the dresser, we've got two marble clocks, small clocks, and I believe they're both New Haven clocks. One of them on the left, that's a good runner right there. I found that on eBay, got a real good deal on it. The other one I've had for a while. I've put a movement in it here recently, but the movement it just runs like a cripple. I mean, it's like, I'm looking for another movement for that one. It is keeping time right now, but two beautiful clocks though for small clocks. I found the one on the right I found over in at Warsaw or Pierceton, Indiana, at Countryside Antiques. I've had that for a while, but then the spring broke in the movement, and I've been trying ever since to find another movement for it. The other one I just got recently, that one over here, and both of them are really neat clocks. All right, what you see there
That's old Bowser on the bed. He's taking the bed over. And we got Big Man back over there. He's up at the head of the bed right there. I hate to wake them. You know, they're nocturnal and everything. They're getting their rest right now, so in the middle of the night they can come jump in our bed and bother us. But anyway, we're in here. This is my wife's dressing room. And here's an HAC clock, Hamburg American clock. And it's keeping some good time. But I got to tell you, I bought this clock years and years ago, and the spring broke on it, and it's got barrel springs in it, and that's beyond my pay grade right there. And I looked for years and years for a movement for this clock, and I finally was on eBay one day, and I found a brand new old stock movement made in Germany. You see the movement, the dial, the pendulum, everything went right to this clock, and it was new old stock. I put it in, had to do some tinkering with it and get the time set and everything, but it keeps accurate time, and it's the exact same movement that was in that clock. So I got that done last week. Really nice clock though. Oh, if you can see this clock here, we got this one not long ago. Let me get down here on my hands and knees. And that is a porcelain clock. It's called a Chi Mung model right there. One thing about this clock though is if you were to buy this clock new, say back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, whenever the time period was for this clock, it would come with an Ansonia movement. The movement you see in front of you there is a New Haven movement, and somebody has installed that somewhere through the years. It's a beautiful clock for sure, and it is a nice movement, runs good, chimes, everything's good on it, but that should be an Ansonia. And I got a real good deal on it. I think it's a pretty clock. The wife likes it. She's sitting right over there watching me film this video right now. And yeah. All right, got to include the old grandfather clocks, a Howard Miller right there. We bought that one in 2006. That's not an oldie. All right, what I'm going to show you next is a Schlenker and Kienzl wall clock. Now this is a copy of the label that would have been on this clock. And let me swing around here. I keep the label in here. One of these days when I'm not doing anything, I'll glue that on the back of the clock. Close the clock up. And the clock looks like this. I found this clock down at exit 76, and what is that, Edinburgh, Michigan, I guess it is. I hope I'm saying that right. It's right off I-65. Found that clock really reasonable. And thing about that clock is I never adjust the time on this clock, ever. That thing is right on the money all the time. Not like the rest of these Hanyaks around here. But anyway, it's probably late 1800s, early 1900s, made in Germany. I usually shy away from a German clock, but this one here is really a nice clock. Now let me swing around here and show you this one up here. Now I bought this one here over at the Michigan City Mall over on 421. And it's a New Haven clock, and this is called a man, I used to know the name of this clock. I can't remember the model of it, but it is what you call a fusee clock, which means the springs are below. You see the winding arbors on there. Those winding arbors do not have springs in back of them. The springs are lower than that, and it runs with a cable up at the top. And then if you took the face off, you would have another set of winding arbors on the springs to adjust the tension of the spring. That clock is from about 1870. Beautiful clock. Man, I found that clock. Hey, don't tell anybody, but I found that clock for 40 bucks right there. 40 bucks. They didn't think it had a pendulum with it, and I got it out, loaded it in the car, and the pendulum fell out from under the movement. And clock didn't really run too good when I got it home, but I took it apart and cleaned it and oiled it and everything, and man, it's been running ever since. I think I've had it about a year. Now swinging down this way, we got an Ansonia carriage clock right here. Thing runs, keeps pretty good time. I gotta wind it about every 12 hours. I'm not sure if that's normal or not. I've taken it apart, cleaned it, and lubed it up and everything. I'm not much on balance wheel clocks, but I kind of like this one here. Had to find that handle for it. It's not exactly the right handle on the top, but I found that I had to go to the UK to find the handle. Also, this is the key I made for it right here, if you can see it. There is a key with it, and it's hanging on a bracket inside the clock, but this part's wore out on it, so I really don't. I always use this key here. This one would wind it right here. This one would set the time and set the alarm time also. There is an alarm on it, but I don't usually set it or use it or anything. Okay, let's swing over to I'll tell you what, I'm not even going to turn the video off. We're just going to swing over here, and I'll show you this one here. Hey, that's me again. Hey. Let's see, I'm staring at this clock, and what are we looking at here? Oh, this is the E.N. Welch clock. Man, we've had this clock not very long. Beautiful pendulum on this thing, though. I hope you can see it. I don't know if you can get a good look at that or not. It's kind of dark back here. But it's got the alarm and everything. And that clock there, I got it off eBay. I think it was 40 bucks. Man, the movement was so dirty it wouldn't even run or anything. But I cleaned that clock up and took the movement apart, cleaned everything up. I also had to change the bell on that. The bell wouldn't ring, it was just dead. So I had another bell downstairs and put that on there. And it's a really nice addition to our living room. Let me move up this way here. Now this clock here, I bought it from a lady from Marketplace. This is a Gilbert. The model is a Jet. It's actually an ebony enamel finished clock. And yeah, we bought this one here. Got a beautiful pendulum on it. Check this pendulum out. I'll stop it for a sec. I don't know if you can see it or not. But beautiful pendulum on this thing. It's got the dial on it and everything. Let me just bring the old flip phone flashlight out. Oh man, this is high tech. Look at that. There we go. Yeah, got a good deal on this one here. Got an alarm. The alarm's working and everything. Runs like a clock. Start it back up. Oh, I'm kind of hard on my equipment. And another thing, the clock, where you see this white decor or whatever you want to call it, if you can notice that, somebody had taken the liberty of taking a brush and filling this full of gold paint, all these little notches and things. And I laid that on the table, and I got some automotive rubbing compound, spread it all over that clock, and got a buffing wheel, and I buffed that gold paint right off of there, and that's what I got right there. Beautiful clock underneath all that handiwork. All right, we're going to move along here. All right, I'm going to take you out to the back porch. All the dogs got to follow me. This is the screen porch. I'll show you a couple of clocks out here. Now right there, that rocking chair right there, that's where I do all my heavy thinking right there. I sit there and drink my coffee in the morning and mutter to myself. Well, anyway, here's a couple of clocks right up here. These are two Gilbert clocks. I would say when they were new, they were probably relatively inexpensive. This one here is kind of a banjo clock. This one here is sort of a timbre style mantle clock, but neither one of these clocks are probably very expensive, and they wind from the back. This one here is actually an 8-day clock. They both keep pretty fair time. I'm not real sure about this banjo clock though. I just got this recently and I've never let it wind down, so I don't think it's an 8-day clock though. I think it might go 30 hours. But I think there's a couple of parts missing on that. I think there was some side rails and an eagle that went on the top of that one there. But yeah, they're not much, but I keep them on the back porch, and they're kind of a nice addition to the back porch here. Hey, let's head down to the basement. All right, we're getting down to the old basement cave here. Yeah, I'll turn some more lights on. Right ahead of us right here is the clock. I got it down at the foot of the stairs. And I believe this to be a George B. Owen clock, maybe around 1874. Now, George B. Owen, he worked at Gilbert Clocks. And I think he was upper management there. And on the side, he had his own clock company, the George B. Owen Clock Company. And I believe I got 3 of his clocks. This is one of them. The movement is not marked Gilbert, but it's very similar to a clock that he may have made at that time. Okay, let's move along here. Now here's a clock that has a German movement in it. It's a Jorgos movement, but a friend of mine gave me this clock, and he said his grandfather made this clock about in the 90s. And he gave it to me. I've had it a couple of years. It keeps good time, has really nice chimes to it. I did have to change the movement because it did have a broken spring on it. So, all right, let's move along. All right, I want to show you a couple of clocks I keep here in the old workshop. This is one of my favorite clocks right here. What do you think? Look at that beauty. Ain't she a beaut? Now what that is a dial off of my Seth Thomas clock I have upstairs. And I had the dial laying around, and one day I found the quartz movement laying in the drawer that you put a AA battery in. So hey, I married the two, and I hung it up on the wall with some beautiful drywall screws. And well, you might laugh at that, but what I use it for is a kind of a tool to check the time on some of the clocks I work on, because that one there keeps time to the second, you know. Well, anyway, let me move along here and show you this clock here. Now, that's some kind of Chinese clock right there. I would say early 2000s. I'm not real sure. Hey, it keeps fair time. But my wife Billie and we were driving along one day, and she says, "Hey, I think I seen a clock sitting along the road there." So, oh yeah, I had to make a U-turn. Went back, and sure enough, there was a clock leaning up on the car table in a lady's driveway. Went up to the door, knocked on the door, and said, "Hey, what about that clock there?" She says, "Oh, that stuff is all free out there. Help yourself." She says, "I don't even know if it runs." So I took it home and took the movement out, cleaned it and everything, and got it to run. It keeps pretty good time. It's an okay clock. I keep it down here in the basement. Down here is another George B. Owen clock right here that you see on the table there. And that clock keeps really nice time. I found that over at Picker's Paradise over in Niles, Michigan. Now I got a selection of timbre style mantle clocks over here. I don't even have them running. And keep them here on this old shelf here. And then I got another one. Let me swap around here. That's a Waterbury right there. That's a good runner. I got that clock at an antique shop in Plymouth, Indiana, and paid $10 for that clock. And when I got it, it had a quartz movement in it, but the old movement, mechanical movement, was wrapped up in a plastic bag with all the parts, and it was inside the clock. So I got the movement off, the quartz movement out of there, and reinstalled the old movement, and she ran like a top. In fact, that clock I showed you back there, that face off to Seth Thomas, that's where that movement came from, is this clock here. Okay, this is going to be my wall of clocks right here. I'm going to show you a few clocks. Now this wall right here, this has all New Haven clocks right here. This clock right here is a 8-day. The model of it is a White Star line, and it's probably from the early 1900s. And a lot of you know that the White Star line, that's the line that the Titanic was from right there. That's a 30-hour New Haven right there. That's from about 1866. This one's from about 1870. It's a 30-hour. Now that one right there, that's an 8-day clock in New Haven with an alarm on it. And that one right there is also an 8-day clock, and the model is Octagon Prize is the model on that one. The clock right there on the wall, that's a Seth Thomas, and next to it, that's an Ansonia. And right there, running right there, is a Waterbury clock. Now I've got this schoolhouse clock my buddy Terry gave me. I'm going to guess that's from the 70s right there. Runs fine. As you see, it's not running right now, but it runs fine. And I enjoy having it hanging on the wall there. It is a Ridgeway clock. It's a nice chimes, runs good and everything. Now this wall right here, these are all Ingram clocks right here. That particular one right there is from 1919. This is a real old one, this one here you see running, if you can see that. I know it's probably from the 1800s, if you can see it. It's pretty dark in here, because it's got a tapered pin to hold the hands on, whereas the Ingram clocks use the nut. Now these two clocks right here, if you can see, that one there and that one down there, those are Chinese clocks. This one on the top right here, that's from about 1895. This one here is from about 1905. I got a couple of more schoolhouse clocks hanging here. That one is a more modern clock. I think it's from the 70s also. That's a Veritron. But this one here is a Secocia right here. And that might be early 1900s, late 1800s. I'm thinking early 1900s. And that was a Japanese clock right there. Now the clock you see right there is another Ingram kitchen clock, and right below it, that's a Waterbury 30-hour clock right there. Now swinging around, we have a E.N. Welch clock right here, late 1800s. Then we have a row of Sessions clocks right here. All black Sessions mantle clocks right here. Here's an old cuckoo clock hanging here. Now that was my mom and dad's clock, and they bought that before I was even born. And the last thing I heard at night was that cuckoo clock winding, and I knew everybody was getting ready to go to bed. Now that clock you see hanging on the wall right there, that's a Meiji clock from Japan, maybe about 1919, 1920, something like that. Now swinging around here, this is my collection of the Ingram black mantles right here. Now we got a Gilbert clock hanging here. I believe that's a 3208 model, and maybe in 1900, I think. That one there, that's a Seth Thomas 1918 schoolhouse clock. No gong on that one. And this is my newest edition right here, and that's a nice Waterbury clock right there. Good runner. Now we got a German clock down here. That's a timbre style clock, and the company that made that was probably in the late 40s, maybe early 50s. It was called the Cuckoo Clock Company of New York. All right, I think you've seen it. Hey, take care.
Bye.